Hi, folks. I told you that in a previous video that I would have a short video on translations of Dante, and voila, here it is. So what I have here is, and I'm hoping this is going to work. One never knows with technology, but let's hope it works. What I have here is what's on your homepage. It's in the Dante folder. And this is Caroline Bergvall's translation gathering. She's gathered a lot of translations of Dante from Italian into English, and she's kind of listed them all. And what she's done in this particular piece is she has taken only the translations in English from a certain time period. And the time period is from about the mid-1800s to, I believe, about the mid-1900s, maybe a little bit later, again, only in English. And it's astonishing how many different translations there are. If you haven't looked at this, I recommend that you take a look at this. And this is just, she didn't do all of the translations of the entire book. She's only looking at the first 3 lines of this poem. I know, mind blown. It's the first 3 lines of this poem are the most famous 3 lines in all of literature. And writers, translators, have been working with these 3 lines to get it just right for hundreds of years. I find it fascinating that we keep trying to translate the same stuff, but think about it. If you hear material that was written in English in the 1800s, it sounds awkward to us. The standard vocabulary is somewhat different than our standard daily vocabulary. Yes, we can understand what is being said, but sort of the flow of language and the vocabulary itself is somewhat different. You think about it, if you talk to somebody in 1800, anytime in the 1800s, anytime in the pretty much in certainly the early part, the first half of the 1900s, and you said the word apple, there would be no question what you meant when you said the word apple. The first time that my daughter went off to school in early 1980s, she went off to school, and she was actually pretty good at knowing her letters before she went off to kindergarten. She came back with a drawing, and the teacher had written me a note saying she really needs help with her letters. And I thought, well, this is really odd. She was given, and I was working on my dissertation at the time. I was working to get my PhD, and she'd watched me working at my computer, and those were really old computers at the time. I was one of the first to actually do my entire dissertation on a computer. And anyway, she was pretty good at letters, and I wondered, okay, what's going on? So I looked at this drawing, and it was the letter A. She had written the letter A very nicely, and there was this gray blob. And I said, Heather, what is this? And she said, well, A is for apple. And I looked at it. It took me a moment, of course, but I realized that in her mind, there are, of course, a couple of different apples. There's the apple you eat, but there's also the Apple computer, because that's what I was working on. And so she chose the Apple computer and made this gray blob on her page. Well, before that time, in the 1970s and the 1960s, nobody would have done that. that just was not part of our regular vocabulary. And of course now that's just, an Apple Watch. If somebody's transported from 1950 to today and somebody says, do you have an Apple Watch? What? what on earth would an Apple Watch be? So you can understand how some of the vocabulary has changed and how some of the focus has changed. Well, let's take a look at the Italian. And I don't speak Italian. So if any of you speak Italian, I apologize for how I'm going to absolutely butcher this particular translation or this reading of these 3 lines. But it's the best I can do because I don't speak Italian and I've got nobody here that speaks Italian in my house, so I can't bring them out here to do this. If I did, I would, but I don't. So here are the 3 lines as Dante wrote them. Nel mezzo del cammin di nostra vita mi ritrovai per una selva oscura, che la diritta via era sparita. So these are the 3 lines. Notice vita, smarito, and then oscura. In the next 3 lines, you're going to see the same kind of pattern of rhyme. But we're not going to go there. We're just looking at translation. So one of the ways to translate it by Dale in 1996, Dale translated this, along the journey of our life, halfway, I found myself again in a dark wood, wherein the straight road no longer lay. Okay, that's one possibility. Craig and Hollander in 1989 had this. At the midpoint in the journey of our life, I found myself astray in a dark wood, for the straight path had vanished. Well, had vanished and no longer lay are very different. Also, the midpoint and halfway, yeah, they're technically the same, but they sound different, don't they? They have a kind of a very different feel. And it doesn't say, here it says, I found myself astray. Here it says, I found myself again. Very different. Half over the wayfaring of our life, since missed the right way, through a night dark wood, struggling, I found myself. That's very different. Here, you're finding yourself lost. Here, we don't know if you're finding yourself or you're finding yourself lost. Here, it's clearly you found yourself. You found yourself. I found myself. Here, I found myself. You notice how in 1893, when this was translated by Musgrave, the language is different. It just sounds different. Not only is the meaning slightly different, but it sounds different. 1980, halfway along the road we have to go, I found myself obscured in a great forest, bewildered, and I knew I had lost the way. My point in having you look at this is to have you be aware of how subtle different translations are. And we happen to have this whole compilation of translations of just 3 lines of poetry in English. And I wanted you to see how different they are and how poets and translators keep trying to work at going from one language to another and work with some of the very subtle nuances of language. You might want to take a look, I'm not going to read all of these to you, but you might want to take a look at the rest of them. There are quite a few. And this is just a small compilation from the mid-1800s until the mid-1900s of just English. And you'll see some real differences here. And if you're interested in learning more about translations, again, I can guide you there If you're lost in the woods of translation, I can guide you a bit. But also, I would recommend that you read the Bergvall articles and her book about Dante and translation, because we need to be reminded over and over that we are not seeing anything in the original language. What we are seeing is everything in translation. Everything we're reading is in translation. And you need to be aware that somebody is making those decisions for you as to what needs to be translated and how it should be translated. I also wanted you to see in this particular piece how important Dante is to writers and to readers, because nobody would be translating him quite this much were it not for the fact that he is quite this popular and quite this meaningful to people. Because of that, he keeps being translated over and over and over again. I do translating myself, and my translations have been from Spanish to English, and I translate poetry from Spanish to English. You'll note in the Dante translations, not one of them has the same rhyme pattern and the same rhythm in English that we find in Italian. It's so far been impossible to make that happen effectively. I mean, you can make it happen, but it's so forced, it's just not any good. It's not worth it. So the notion not just of translating the words, but also translating the meaning, and also it was obviously really important for Dante to have this pattern in the way he wrote it with the rhyme and the rhythm. So we're just butchering that by translating it into English or into any other language for that matter. Does it matter that we do that? Oh, those are huge questions in the world of translation. Let me just say, they are huge questions. Nobody has gotten it right yet. We keep arguing. When I do my translations, I try to stick with a rhyme pattern, but it's really hard. And I think in the folder, in the Dante folder, and certainly in the World Lit folder, I've put a few of those translations that I have done, just so that you can see some of my attempt at getting it right. Don't know if I got it right either, but we all try to do the best we can with it. But I need you to see the issues that are inherent in this, okay? So good luck with this. I hope you enjoy translations, because they really are fascinating. And again, if you want more information or more help, more direction, I'm right here, hand raised, right here. I'm right here. So good luck with it. Enjoy it. Bye.